Hello everybody, and welcome to Kobe's Classroom, the visual guide for the fight Arcadion M7S Savage against the Brute Abombinator. This fight is pretty similar to normal mode, just hits a lot harder and has a couple new mechanics. The real difficulty is in the DPS check, so without further ado, let's jump into it. This fight begins with Brutal Impact, a raid wide that hits 6 times. Stoneringer is the tank buster for the fight. Brute Abombinator creates a weapon. If it's a sword, he'll do a donut AoE. If it's a club, he'll do a point blank AoE. The boss starts casting Smash here or Smash there, which targets the closest or furthest player with a shared tank buster. The cast finishes, resolving the weapon, and then the tank buster. I recommend having your main tank invuln the first one and off tank invuln the second one of these.
To take it outside, the Brute Abombinator means business. Will the unenhanced warrior be able to contend with this chimerical foe? He's used his feral powers to manifest a weapon.
Spore Sack is the first major mechanic. We pre-position with ranged DPS north and healer south. When the cast finishes, there will be an AoE on the edge on each side. These AoEs leave behind a seed, which will begin to grow in either a straight line or a corner shape. When they finish growing, the seeds and vines explode. The pattern always leaves safe spots like this, but it might be flipped. We need the ranged in the north safe spot, healers in the south, and melees in the inner south safe spot. To identify these safe spots, as a ranged, you want to be outside of the corner shape, and as a melee, you want to be inside the corner shape or next to a straight line seed. Once these vines grow, the Sinister Seeds cast finishes, giving either the 4 closest or 4 furthest players a pink seed AoE, and the others a baited AoE. I'll show you the ranged seed pattern first. If you look at the arena, you'll see a marker in each of these corner lines. This is where players will aim to place their seeds, with Light Party 1 players west and Light Party 2 players east. The spores hatch into some adds. The main tank should pick up the north and west add, and the off tank should pick up the south and east add. The melees which have the baited AoE in this pattern move up, and then to the middle, and then down, dropping AoEs as they go. The seeds drop, giving these exploding star AoEs, and players get into their light parties west and east to avoid the seeds and handle a stack. Immediately after, all players run to the east wall, because the baited AoEs re-trigger, but much larger. Let's take a look at the pattern where melee starts southeast instead. They still move up, and then to the middle, and then down. We do our light parties, and then we move east, but we have to make sure that we go all the way to the east, because the AoEs are much closer. Finally, we can look at the pattern where melees get the seeds. The ranged place 3 AoEs along the wall, and move towards the middle for the 4th. We do our light parties, and finally we move east.
Standing one. Oh dear! Fiendish flora have sprouted from the scattered seeds!
Once we avoid the AoEs, the adds start casting. 2 will be casting Winding Wild Winds, which is a donut, and the other 2 cast Cross and Crosswinds, which is a plus AoE. These are interruptible, so the main tank should interrupt the first donut in the enemy list, the off tank should interrupt the second donut, and the fizz ranged is free to interrupt anything, but if a tank misses their interrupt, they should take care of it instead. The adds also don't have much HP, so you can just kill them before they finish. Afterwards, all the adds need to be killed or they enrage, and we can hide behind them to avoid Quarry Swamp, a line of sight petrifying gaze. Some cameras start crashing down, doing proximity AoEs. These drop clockwise or counterclockwise from the first one, stand opposite the first, and rotate around as they go off, to avoid them. Once the first resolves, the boss starts casting another Stoneringer tank buster to be handled after. This here is a club, so it'll do a point blank, and smash here, so the tank needs to be the closest. Afterwards, we get Pulp Smash, which is a party stack that we take in the middle. This is followed up with a protein baited at each player, so we spread to our true north clock spots. Finally, we all stand north for Neo Bombardian Special, which is a raid wide which knocks us into the Phase 2 arena.
Oh my! Even the cameras have been petrified, and now they're crashing down all around! We should just rival flying! What fearsome strength!
At the start of Phase 2, the boss jumps to the north wall and creates a weapon. Brutish Swing will tether him to another wall to jump to. When he arrives there, the weapon resolves. Afterwards, he casts Glower Power, which is a line AoE in front of the boss and spreads on each player. We have Light Party 1 to the left of him and Light Party 2 to the right. Revenge of the Vines is a raid-wide. Thorny Deathmatch will create a tether to the player with the highest enmity. The further this tether stretches, the more damage the player takes. The boss creates another weapon. Abominable Blink will place a flare marker on a random tank. If the main tank gets it, the off-tank can provoke to take the tether. The tank with the flare can just take it in the corner to the left of the boss. Spore Splosion will create 3 sets of AoEs. We dodge from the third to the first. Meanwhile, the boss jumps to the opposite tower and resolves the weapon after, which is followed up by another Glower Power, and then a Revenge of the Vines raid-wide.
Goodness me, the Brute Abombinator is hanging on the building! pounding from wall to wall.
The major mechanic in Phase 2 is Demolition Deathmatch. This has two variations, depending on which tower the boss is on. During the cast, we need to have H1 on the short side wall and H2 on the wall opposite the boss to bait some tethers. The main tank will also get a tether. These are all the same ones which deal more damage the more it's stretched. Next is another flare. This is taken in the corner next to the boss again. In this pattern, H1 needs a bit of extra mitigation to make sure they live. Strange Seeds will do 4 sets of seed AoEs, given to 2 players at a time, 1 support and 1 DPS. To handle this, the first and third seeds will be placed in these corners, with tanks left of the boss and DPS to the right. You can identify the DPS spot by the thick line on the ground from the pattern being mirrored. H1 uses the corner next to them, and H2 also uses the middle spot. The second and fourth seed drops will be on the Waymark. H2 can just place theirs in the middle of the square pattern to avoid stretching their tether too far. The party players who aren't dropping seeds can just sit in this area in front of the boss and chill, giving all players full uptime. So the first and third look like this, and the second and fourth look like this. Now let's go over the full mechanic. The first seeds come out, they place it at the wall, and the boss creates a weapon. Second seeds are on the Waymark. Third seeds on the wall. Fourth seeds on the Waymark. We dodge the fourth seeds, then all players of one roll get a pair stack, which also drops a seed. Melees are close to the boss, ranged are far. And these are just taken at the wall seed spot. Afterwards, the tether breaks, and we can avoid the seeds. And then the boss jumps to a tower, and uses his weapon, followed up with a glower. Let's look at the other pattern where the boss is on the southwest wall instead. Again, H1 on the short side wall, and H2 on the wall opposite the boss. We get a flare, which is handled the exact same as normal. For Strange Seeds this time, the wall spots will be here. For the Waymark spots, H1 can just place it at the line in front of their tower instead, to avoid stretching their tether too far. Let's go over this full pattern. The first seeds are placed at the wall. The second seeds are placed at the Waymark. The boss creates a weapon, and the third seeds are placed at the wall. Fourth seeds at the Waymark. We avoid the fourth seeds. And then we go to our pair spots. D3 has to run far over to H1 here, but there is time. We dodge the pair seeds, and then move to the wall for the weapon attack. Finally, we have Glower. And then there's a Revenge of the Vines raid wide into Power Slam, crashing us into Phase 3.
We'll send cameras in there at once.
Phase 3 begins with Brutal Impact, hitting 7 times. The boss then uses Stoneringer 2, which creates 2 Stoneringers. When Brutish Swing starts, he'll tether to a wall and one of the weapons will start glowing. This is the one he'll use first. If you move to the same side as the glowing weapon, you'll be safe from a lariat later. He jumps and the weapon resolves, followed up with a raid wide, and then lashing lariat, where he'll jump across, cleaving the glowing side. Next, he tethers to another wall, and does a Brutish Swing there. Afterwards is a Glower. If you look at the floor, you'll see a grid of faint white lines. The line AoE goes halfway through the third tile. Remember to spread. Finally, we have Slaminator, which is a giant tower that the main tank can invuln.
Alari, the brute bomber must still be in there somewhere. A punishing attack! Oh, the true power of this monstrous fusion. The contender dodged everything! Why am I not surprised?
Next up is another set of Brutal Impacts. It's always 8 hits from now on. Then a Stoneringer Tank Buster, just like in Phase 1. And now the major mechanic of Phase 3, Demolition Deathmatch 2. To begin, we have all ranged players closest to the wall on each cardinal, DPS north and south and healers east and west. These players will get a tether like the previous ones. Next is Spore Sack, which works the same as in Phase 1. There's an AoE on each side which creates a spore that then stretches into a corner or line, leaving some safe spots. Ranged players have to take the ones at the wall, and melees are in the middle. All players of one role get a pair stack which will drop a seed. These are done on the cardinal with the ranged players, one tile in from the wall. This leaves a safe spot for the ranged players on the wall, and the melees close to the middle on the northwest and southeast. The spores hatch into adds again, so the tanks need to make sure they get aggro. The boss does a Quarry Swamp gaze to avoid by using the adds. This will petrify the adds, which can then be finished off with any damage. Now we have Sinister Seeds again, which has 2 patterns depending on if the ranged or melees get the seeds. To start, we have the ranged go to the left side of the wall and all melees stand in the northwest. We'll go over the melee seed pattern first. The melees will drop the seed on their color waymark while the ranged drop 4 baited AoEs along the wall. Afterwards we do light parties on the west and east of the boss, just like Phase 1. This is followed up by a pulp smash stack in the middle into a true north clock spot spread. Next, we'll look at the ranged seed pattern. The ranged drop the seed at the wall on the cardinal, while the melees walk clockwise around the boss, dropping AoEs. Afterwards, all players meet in the southwest, where we get a pulp smash stack, and then we do clock spreads relative to the corner. This mechanic ends with a Brutal Impact. The final mechanic starts with Stoneringer 2 creating 2 weapons again. Strange Seeds will give all players of one role a seed which they'll drop at their colour waymark. The boss casts Brutish Swing, showing which wall it'll jump to and which weapon it'll use. Move to the boss and stand in or out to avoid the weapon. Next, we get another Lariat to avoid, and the other role gets the seed. These are placed at their colour waymark again, while the boss telegraphs the next Brutish Swing, then we just avoid the seeds and the other weapon. This ends with another Slaminator tower, which the off-tank can invuln. The fight is nearly over, we get another tank buster, and then a brutal impact, and finally, Special Bombarian Special, which is the Enrage. And that's it. If you managed to clear, congratulations. If not, you'll get it next time. If you liked this video, you can leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.